A brief little story. About 12 years ago, I became the Associate Dean of Special Academic Programs at Seton Hall University. And my job began in March or April. And I was confronted by two individuals, Mr. Gill and Dr. McGee. They needed to come to check me out. I was the first female director of that upper bound program in the over 50 years that it has run. So, it was very interesting because Mr. Gill is very soft-spoken, very kind, but he kind of walked up into me and said, "I'm Mr. Gill." And so I said, "Okay, all right, I'm Mr. Gill." But Mr. Gill was and continues to be one of the best individuals I know on earth.
My God.
And while I no longer work at Seton Hall University, I still follow Mr. Gill. We love Facebook. So whenever we see each other, he's like, "I follow you, I saw that, it's really nice that you posted." So I wanted to take this opportunity to express to you, Mr. Gill, I think you've made me a better educator. So I would like to call up Abina Douglas, who's the current Associate Director of the Upper Bound Program at Seton Hall University, and Mr. Charles Shepard, who is a summer coordinator at the Upper Bound Program.
Yes.
We want to present this award to Mr. Gill. This is an appreciation award presented to Daniel Gill for your generous commitment of time, support, and inspiration to students. As your career comes to an end, please know your influence carries on. And here we are. Presented by Abina Douglas and Cassandra Davis, June 10th, 2017.
Did you learn anything, Anthony?
Okay, thank you so much.
I love this.
We also have with us today another longtime Glenfield school teacher, a longtime educator, someone who I can remember who was, I think, both Kira's teacher, my teacher at Glenfield Middle School, and Connor's teacher as well. So I'm sure he's thinking, how did all this happen? But someone who was a good friend to Dad, continues to be a good friend to Dad, and we're really very honored that he took the time to be here, Mr. Kevin McCarthy.
Thank you. I really didn't prepare remarks. I was told that I was going to contribute some jokes to the festivities. So I didn't expect to be called on. Just in case, as I was driving here, I literally had my wife hold a clipboard. And I said, write these ideas down. So this is off the top of my head. And one of the problems is when I was trying to think of funny stories for Dan Gill, and you know what? Everything that's funny is what he does naturally. And as you can hear, he's, what his kids say about him is, it's funny because that's Dan. And, I was teaching 40 years. By the way, it's the first time I'm talking in front of a group, except 2 years ago when I left 6th grade. So, all you people, it's frightening. How did I get through this? Now, I taught 40 years. I always expected Dan to go out before me. He's still there. I don't know what he's trying to prove.
Sorry, Dan.
See, this is the great thing about Dan. He's the best audience in the world. His laugh is so contagious. You could be bombing and you'd want Dan Gill there because he makes it sound good. You know, we always joke there, are they going to, name a parking space after him? A hallway or, his teaching area, his bathroom.
My arms are been tired.
When he does something in that school has to be named after him. I started as a graduate intern student, and I was plopped into Hillside School, and I was put into Dan Gill's classroom, and I would have high school kids come in and tutor sixth graders, and I really didn't have a lot of interaction with the teachers. I would see them, they'd say hello to me, my kids would scatter and help out, and my conversations with Dan would be, you're doing a good job, keep it up, and kids like you. And then after it was over, this is what I learned, was that Dan and his team were starting, literally making it up as they went along. They were writing the book on teen teaching. And it was called Concept 2, and he was with 3 outstanding teachers, Pat Podesta, Elizabeth Smith, Dennis Lynch, and Dan was the team leader. What I realized later was that, he wasn't that much older than myself. I had a tendency to think, these are old people, but Dan was only a couple but they were like maniacs. They would sit and argue, and they wanted to be perfect. They worked so hard. One of the funniest things was, to me at the time, they were trying to do everything non-traditional, to really change teaching, which they did. They did write the textbook on it, on teen teaching. It hasn't been published yet, and hopefully Dan will write it. But to give an example, their report cards were not just letters or numbers. It was an essay. It was a fold-out, written, 5-page thing that went home to parents, and it really told you what the kids were all about, and that made an impression on me. I said, these people are crazy. I must be in the wrong field, because if they're putting in this time for this. And I fortunately was hired on as a teacher, and I got in the same building, and I got to know Dan. I got to know his wit and wisdom as we went along. For giving an example, there was one time our vice president